Oh, you brilliant, stubborn survivors who refused to quit on a Tuesday when quitting made perfect sense. You clicked on this video because something in your chest recognized the title before your brain caught up. Good. That instinct is exactly what I want to talk about. Because you, my restless little architect, have been building something enormous in the dark, and you had no idea the scaffolding was already there before you picked up the first nail. Let me tell you a secret that the sane people will never admit. Nobody fights alone. Nobody. They tell you otherwise because isolation is a leash, and a leashed dog doesn't wander into rooms where decisions get made. But you kept wandering. You kept pushing doors that had no handles. And behind every single one of those doors, somebody was already turning the lock from the other side. You felt it, didn't you? A near miss that should have destroyed you, but curved at the last second, like a bullet with a conscience. A phone call that arrived on the one afternoon you were ready to burn every bridge you owned. A stranger who said exactly 5 words that rearranged your entire year. You called it luck. You called it coincidence. You called it timing. I call it protection. And I call it that because I have watched enough chaos to know the difference between random wreckage and a controlled demolition. Your life has not been random. The collapses were controlled. Somebody with a steadier hand than yours was placing charges in the walls that needed to come down, so the walls that needed to stand could finally breathe. Think about the last 6 months. Something shifted. The ground moved. People you trusted walked away, or people you never expected showed up carrying exactly the tool you needed. A door closed with such violence you thought the house was falling apart. But the house didn't fall. You're still in it. You're watching this video from inside a structure that should have collapsed 3 crises ago, and it didn't. That is not your luck. That is somebody else's work. Now I know your brain, that gorgeous overworked engine between your ears, is already assembling counter-arguments. You're thinking about the nights you cried into a pillow with no one on the other end of the phone. You're thinking about the silence after you sent that text asking for help. You're thinking about every room you walked into where nobody looked up. I hear you. I do. But loneliness and abandonment are 2 different animals wearing the same coat. You were lonely. You were never abandoned. The people protecting you don't always sit beside you on the couch. Some of them operate from 3 zip codes away. Some of them work in silence because the moment they announce themselves, the protection breaks. A shield only works when the sword doesn't know where to aim. Let me paint you a picture. You are a glass elevator in a building with no lights. You keep rising, floor after floor, and you cannot see a thing outside the glass. You assume you're rising through emptiness. You assume the building is hollow, that nobody is out there, that the entire structure around you is abandoned. But every single floor is full. Engineers on the 4th floor are checking the cables. Electricians on the 9th floor are wiring the lights that will turn on when you reach the top. Architects on the 15th floor already designed the view you're going to see when the doors open. You don't hear them because they are professionals, and professionals don't knock on the glass to wave at you while they're working. Your protectors are professionals. Before we continue, let's talk about your true potential. They took your pride, but they handed you the keys to the kingdom. Grab my book in the description to rebuild your ego into steel. Let's get back to why you're really here. Some of them are people you already know. The friend who casually mentioned an opportunity 3 months ago, the one you almost ignored, The co-worker who deflected a political grenade at the office before it reached your desk, and you never even heard the pin drop. The family member who stopped asking intrusive questions and started asking useful ones. Those shifts were not accidents. Those people received a signal, maybe from their own intuition, maybe from something larger, and they responded. Some of your protectors are people you will never meet. The hiring manager who moved your resume to the top of the pile because something in your cover letter sounded like a person who builds rather than borrows. The stranger who decided not to send that cruel comment on your post, not because they grew a conscience, but because something whispered, "Don't touch that one." The driver who changed lanes 2 seconds before the collision that would have rearranged your Thursday. You have been shielded so many times, you've started to mistake safety for skill. And listen, you are skilled. You are ferociously competent in ways that make comfortable people nervous. But skill alone doesn't explain your survival rate. Skill doesn't explain why the worst-case scenario keeps stopping 1 inch from your face and then retreating like it remembered an appointment somewhere else. Something else is operating here. Something with a longer memory than yours and a wider view than yours. I want to address the ones who feel guilty right now. The ones thinking, why me? Why would anyone protect me? I haven't earned it. I haven't done enough. I'm not special enough for invisible help. Stop. Stop that sentence in its throat before it finishes. You are not protected because you earned it. You are protected because you are needed. There's a canyon of difference between those two ideas. Earning implies a transaction. You did X, so you receive Y. Protection doesn't work that way. You are protected because what you carry inside you, the idea, the vision, the stubbornness, the strange and specific fire that makes you keep going when the math says quit. That thing is necessary. Not necessary to you. Necessary to something bigger than you. To a pattern you can't see yet because you're standing too close to the canvas. The people and forces guarding you don't care about your resume. They don't care about your follower count or your credit score or the number of times you've failed. They care about your trajectory. And your trajectory, my relentless little compass, has been pointing true north this entire time, even when you felt lost, especially when you felt lost, because lost is where recalibration happens. Lost is where the old maps burn and the new coordinates lock in. Every period of confusion you endured was a recalculation, not a malfunction. Your system wasn't broken. Your system was updating. I know you've been tired. The kind of tired that sleep doesn't fix. The kind that sits in your bones like furniture that was never invited but refuses to leave. You wake up heavy. You move through your day carrying a weight that doesn't show on your body, but shows in your eyes. People who love you have noticed. They say you look different. They say you seem distant. They're right. You are distant. You're being pulled forward by something your conscious mind hasn't caught up to yet. That exhaustion is the friction between where you are and where you're being taken. You are a ship being towed into harbor, and the resistance you feel is the ocean doing what oceans do, pulling against the direction of arrival. But the harbor doesn't care about the waves. The harbor is ready. The harbor has been ready for months, and the crew bringing you in, those invisible hands on the tow line, they've done this before. They've brought in ships more battered than yours, in storms worse than this one. Your damage doesn't scare them. Your rust doesn't concern them. They see the cargo you're carrying, the ideas, the potential, the unfinished work that the world needs. and they know the hull will hold long enough to dock. Now here's where I get theatrical, and I want you to stay with me because this part matters more than everything I've said so far. Release the anxiety. I don't mean manage it. I don't mean journal about it, or breathe through it, or give it a name and a seat at your dinner table. I mean release it the way you release a bird that flew into your living room through an open window. You don't negotiate with the bird. You don't make the bird a cup of tea. You open the window wider. You step back. You let the thing find its own way out. Your anxiety is not data. It is noise. It's the sound the machine makes when it's processing too many inputs at once. And you have been feeding it inputs that don't belong to you. You've been anxious about outcomes that were never yours to control. You've been losing sleep over decisions that already got made by someone with a better vantage point. You've been clutching a steering wheel in a car that's on autopilot, white-knuckling the leather while the navigation system calmly follows a route you never programmed. Your knuckles are white for nothing. Your jaw is clenched for nothing. Your stomach is in a knot for nothing. Let go of the wheel, not forever, not recklessly. Let go of it the way a surgeon lets go of the scalpel between cuts. Deliberately, temporarily, with the full knowledge that you'll pick it up again when your hands are needed. Right now, your hands are not needed on the wheel. Right now, your job is to rest inside the motion, to trust that the car knows the road, to notice that every sharp turn you've taken in the last year led you closer to something, not farther from it. Let me talk about those turns for a moment, because I think you've been misreading them. That job you lost. You called it a failure. The people protecting you called it an extraction. You were in a building with a gas leak, and they pulled the fire alarm. You stumbled out, coughing and confused, cursing them for the disruption, while behind you the whole place filled with fumes that would have done permanent damage if you'd stayed another 6 months. That relationship that ended. You called it rejection. Your protectors called it surgery. They removed something that was growing in the wrong direction, something that looked healthy from the outside, but was quietly compressing every organ around it. You grieved the loss. They celebrated the save, that friend who disappeared. You called it betrayal. The protection grid called it a reassignment. That person's role in your story was complete, and keeping them in the cast would have blocked the entrance for the next character, the one carrying the line that changes everything in Act 3. You've been reading your life like a tragedy. Your protectors have been writing it as a rescue operation, and the rescue is not over. I want you to hear that clearly. The rescue is ongoing right now, at this exact moment, while you sit here watching a man in clown paint tell you things your therapist charges $200 an hour to say. Somebody is working on your behalf. Somebody is making a call. Somebody is holding a door. Somebody is deciding in your favor in a room you don't have access to, and they're doing it because something in the fabric of this whole ridiculous existence flagged your file and stamped it with 3 words. Protect this one. Not because you're fragile, because you're essential. There's a difference that most people never learn, and the ones who learn it late spend the rest of their lives catching up. Fragile things get wrapped in bubble wrap and placed on a shelf. Essential things get surrounded by infrastructure. Roads get built to them. Power lines get run to them. Security gets stationed at their perimeter. You are not being sheltered. You are being supplied. Every resource you've received in the last year, every unexpected check, every surprise opportunity, Every stranger's kindness that made no logical sense, those were supply drops. Somebody looked at your coordinates, assessed your situation, and sent provisions. I want to give you some homework, and I don't use that word lightly, because homework implies you'll be graded, and nobody is grading you. This is homework in the original sense, work you do at home, in your own space with your own hands. Tonight, before you sleep, make a list, a short one. 3 to 5 moments from the past year where something happened that you could not explain, a rescue you didn't arrange, a collapse that somehow left you standing on solid ground, a gift that arrived without a return address, an exit that appeared at the exact second you needed to leave. Write them down, don't analyze them, don't assign meaning. Let them sit on the page like evidence in a case you're not ready to prosecute. Then read the list in the morning. With fresh eyes, you will see what I see. A pattern, a rhythm, a sequence of interventions, so precise they couldn't have been random. You will see the fingerprints of your protectors on every close call, every soft landing, every door that opened when you didn't even knock. And once you see the pattern, something in your chest will unclench. The fist you've been making around your own heart will open, finger by finger, and you'll feel the blood rush back into places that have been numb for years. Here's the part that matters most. So I'm going to slow down and say it plainly. You don't have to identify your protectors. You don't have to find them and thank them and build a shrine in your living room. Some of them wouldn't know what you were talking about. Some of them acted on instinct and forgot about it by dinner. Some of them are forces, not people, and forces don't accept thank you cards. All you have to do is stop believing you are fighting this war by yourself. That belief, that single corroding belief, is the only wall between you and everything that's been prepared for you. Every fear you carry, every hesitation, every 3 a.m. spiral about whether you're going to make it, all of it is built on the assumption that you are the only soldier on your side of the field. You look left and see nobody. You look right and see nobody. So you assume nobody is there. But your protectors don't stand beside you. They stand ahead of you, clearing the road. They stand behind you, covering the retreat you'll never need. They stand above you, watching the patterns you can't see from ground level. You're not fighting alone. You're fighting at the front of a formation so large it extends beyond your peripheral vision. Your future is not a gamble. Your future is a construction project, and the crew has been on site since before you were born. The foundation was poured years ago. The framing went up during every struggle that made you stronger. The wiring was run through every lesson that taught you what to value. And the crew is still working. They haven't taken a day off. They don't plan to. So tonight, when the anxiety knocks, and it will knock because anxiety is persistent and rude and has no concept of visiting hours, I want you to answer the door differently. Don't wrestle it. Don't slam the door in its face. Open the door wide and let it see the crowd standing behind you. Let it count the allies. Let it do the math and realize it showed up to intimidate someone who has an army it never accounted for. Then close the door, gently, almost politely, and go to sleep, knowing something that the anxious version of you never believed, but the protected version of you has always known. You, my stubborn little earthquake, were never shaking alone. The ground was shaking with you. Every crack you caused was a crack that needed to exist. Every tremor you sent through your own life rattled loose the things that were ready to fall and revealed the things that were built to stay. The ones who stayed, the friends, The strangers, the forces, the unnamed engineers on every floor of your invisible building, they felt your shaking. They braced, they adjusted, and they kept working. Because they know what I know, what you are only beginning to suspect, what this entire speech has been circling like a hawk over a field, patient and certain, and waiting for the right moment to land. You are worth the effort. Every midnight shift your protectors have pulled, every silent intervention, every rerouted disaster, every door that opened or closed at exactly the right second. All of it was worth it. All of it will continue. All of it was never going to stop, because the people protecting you don't operate on a budget. They operate on a conviction, and their conviction is simple. You are going to make it. Not because you're lucky, not because you're perfect, because you are protected by forces that looked at every broken piece of you and saw exactly what those pieces are going to build. And what they're going to build, my dear relentless tremor, is going to shake the ground one more time. But this time, everyone will be watching.